right, the next question is science. It's asking, how old are the oldest fossils on Earth?
Yeah, so give me just a sec here. It's widely accepted today that the age of the Earth is about 4.5, 4.6 billion years old. And the earliest time in Earth's history, as far as we understand it, the Earth was sort of poorly formed. There wouldn't have been really any oxygen in the atmosphere. There wouldn't have been any atmosphere to speak of. And so any debris from outer space. And at this time in our solar system, there would have been a great deal more. So the Earth would have been constantly bombarded with asteroids and meteorites. And this would be, sort of changing the shape of the surface of the Earth and creating a pretty inhospitable environment, let's just say. So it's believed that during this initial period, the Hadean period, there is essentially no life on Earth. Starting at around 3 billion years ago, although dates are not fully certain, there's some evidence that life goes back further than 3 billion years, but we start to see evidence of life from a couple different things. The first piece of evidence for life actually wouldn't be a fossil, but would be some kind of a record of increase in oxygen in the atmosphere, which we might see through other types of rocks. So Earth's early atmosphere would have been composed largely of carbon dioxide, and so the bacteria, the really simple, I guess what would be called archaea, organisms that lived at that time, would have been respirating in a way that used carbon dioxide and produced oxygen. It's those early creatures in the Archean era that actually provided the oxygen in the atmosphere that allowed later life to take advantage of that oxygen. And in fact, we tend to think of plants as the main thing that produces the oxygen that we humans breathe, but that's not really the case, although of course plants do provide large amounts of the oxygen on the Earth. The majority of it is produced by algae in the oceans. And algae in the oceans are maybe a good analog for sort of ancient life and what it would have been like. If we could jump to my screen really quickly, I'm just going to show just a simple picture of what look like just little rounded rocks on the seacoast. I think this is in Australia, but these are fossils of what are called stromatolites. Stromatolites are a really simple single-celled organism that lives in a colony. They respirate carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. They essentially perform photosynthesis. And the oldest fossils that we have ever found as humans have been stromatolite fossils. And I don't know the exact age of the fossils. I think it's in the upper 2 billion year, 2.5 plus billion year. But again, there's speculation that life existed even before that. One thing you have to remember is that even if we could find a really old fossil, there's a good chance that a fossil older than that existed. And in fact, the fossils that we have are probably just a tiny portion of all fossils that have ever existed. But many fossils are inaccessible because they're buried deep in the Earth, or because the Earth's continents and the Earth's tectonic plates will shift and move and get subducted underneath each other. And so if you have a layer of rock that maybe contains some interesting information, some ancient fossils, over time, that layer of rock at some point is going to get subducted under another layer of rock. It's going to be melted back into magma, and you're going to be left with no evidence. So it's really fortunate that we have the stromatolite fossils that we do, and that we know that life goes back that several billion years again, probably about 3 billion years. But it's not to say that there weren't creatures that lived earlier than that. All that stuff would have been really simple organisms, though, again, similar to what we think of as bacteria today, but even simpler than that on some level.
Good answer.
Oh, thanks.